Today we're talking about AI.
How's it going, Brett? My name's Bordepa. Welcome to Eevee. It's been a while since we talked.
Where nature once set the boundaries for mankind, that is no longer the case. With scientific and technological advancement, humankind has managed to challenge or even surpass these boundaries. Just think about our ability to clone animals or directly manipulate genetics. Those are incredible feats of ingenuity and innovation, but I think most people would agree that it's also scary. At this point, it must be like 1,000 books, movies or shows that has revolved around some form of technology getting out of hand. However, I don't think there's one type of groundbreaking technology that lately has been talked more about than AI. Since the beginning of the year, AI has been showing up everywhere. From memes to the news, to hosting entire live streams, and currently, ChatGPT is messing with the entire school system. One of the main concerns about AI is the potential impact on employment. Many have the fear that they will get outperformed and replaced by a robot. My old teacher used to laugh at this.
You serious?
His counterpoint was always that we as humans are so good at creating unnecessary paperwork that we will find some way to create a job. Whether or not he's right about that, I would agree to one thing. There is a much bigger and much scarier consequence of AI. In the area of mimicking human intelligence and behavior, AI have taken massive steps. AI can easily sound human. In a lot of cases, this has been used as an easy way to create jokes. With deepfakes, AI has no trouble looking like a human. Just think about the Atriarch situation a few months ago. AI can look and sound the part, but even more disturbingly, AI can also replicate a sort of pseudo-intelligence. Just think about personal assistants like Siri or Alexa that mimic human intelligence in such a way that they almost feel like they generate their own thoughts. If a machine can sound like a human, look like a human, and think like a human, how do we define the line that separates us from machines? Is such a line even possible to define? Luckily, this question has already been explored by many philosophers like Aristotle. Really? But the philosopher René Descartes is probably the most famous for this. You've probably heard of him, or at least his quote, "I think, therefore I am." While that quote is the boiled down version of his thoughts, understanding it goes a lot deeper than that. Descartes is part of a branch of philosophers known as dualists. Dualists split the human consciousness in two, the spirit and the flesh. Sometimes named differently, like the mental and the physical, but ultimately it means the same thing. Descartes used this to separate the body and the mind. In short, he described that the body is extended in time and place and therefore is subject to physical laws such as gravity or aging. On the contrary, the mind is not extended and therefore wields complete freedom. This is the reason you are able to imagine yourself flying in a daydream despite this never being possible in real life. This is also Descartes' main argument for separating humans from animals. Animals don't possess the mind, they only exist in the extended form and is unable to think outside simple needs and emotions. In the same way, Descartes argues that a machine would never be able to think even though it's built to resemble human behavior. No matter how sophisticated the machine is, it will always be missing the mind and therefore freedom. It will only be capable of what it is programmed to do and therefore doesn't possess the ability to act freely despite it being able to act. It can replicate something resembling free will, but ultimately it will be limited by its own programming. Of course, Descartes didn't know about programming or AI, but he based all these thoughts on automaton. An automaton is a relatively self-operating machine designed to mimic animal and human behavior. Despite being limited by his time, Descartes described two methods of which we will always be able to discover that a machine is only mimicking human intelligence, no matter how sophisticated it may be. Method 1. A machine will never be able to construct a unique sentence in any given scenario. Descartes acknowledges that a machine can be made to respond in many different ways and in many different scenarios, but it will never be able to arrange the responses and adapt them in specific situations. This is an ability a man of the lowest intellect can do, he adds. Method 2. A machine will never be able to act outside their purpose. He says that even though machines will outperform humans in certain areas, they would without a doubt fail in others. From here, you would know that they did not act from knowledge or intelligence, but only from their programming. And that ends my summary of discourse on method. But this is not where the discussion ends. On the opposite side of the philosophy spectrum, we have the materialists. Not to be confused with the mainstream use of the word. Materialists directly disagree with the way dualists describe the mind being separate from the human body. The Ghost in the Machine is a text written by materialists. The title alone highlights how the materialists find the idea of dualism absurd. By describing the non-physical entity as a ghost, they dismiss the thought as nothing more than a superstition, at the same time describing the human body as a machine, which leads us to the German philosopher Baron Holbach. According to Holbach, what dualists describe as spirit can easily be explained from physical factors by breaking down the human consciousness to physical processes happening in the central nervous system, thus proving that our mind is not a separate entity from our body and is also confined to the laws of physics. Holbach even goes as far as to say that free will is an illusion. All of our actions are influenced by factors from our surroundings that make us behave in a certain way. Whenever we drink water, we do it because of thirst. Whenever we read, we do it because of entertainment. Whenever we buy something, we do it because of a need we feel. Basically, if we find an act enjoyable, we do it. If we find an act painful, we avoid it. Holbach argues that all of our actions are always dictated by this balance between satisfaction and discomfort. In this way, the human intellect is boiled down to a very simple formula that potentially could be replicated by AI. All that is needed to achieve human-level consciousness is a reward system. Granted, it would still be complex, but our entire decision-making and thought process could be replicated if we look at it like Holbach. So, who's right? I don't know. Both sides are equally valid, which I know sounds very anticlimactic. Personally, I think the dualists are right. There is something special about the human psyche that just can't be replaced. Robots will always be a bit off compared to another human being. And that is because humans have this unique feature to think outside the box without worrying about logic or optimization, which I don't think a robot would ever be able to achieve.
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling.